are now listening to the Primal Human podcast, where you'll learn many invaluable skills to master yourself. I am Nick Cortez. And welcome to the Primal Human episode 4, the group dynamic. Now, this podcast goes into detail about how we react in groups and how groups influences us to make different choices and possibly change our views. You know, when we're in a group, we usually feel a different sense of, we kind of lose ourselves a little bit if we're not aware of it. And most people aren't, especially as kids. We kind of go with, what's cool and, what's lame. We try to get away from that. If somebody says, oh, that's cool and that's lame, then we usually end up changing our views for whatever seems cooler. One quick example is my sister. I used to tell her, oh, back when I was in school, that was cool. And she would totally go with that to school and say, oh, this is cool, because, she's trying to be all cool and retro, because that's what was cool back then. Anyways, it goes like this. We're social animals. From the beginning of time, we hunted in groups, and that's how we became the dominant species in this planet. Now, we had to prove ourselves to the group back then to, be leaders and have a certain position. And that's usually how groups are nowadays. We have to think about groups in the workforce, and even our classroom. Whenever we get assigned a group, we still want to prove ourselves to the group. Usually, because, there's people that are kind of lazy and, we'll have other people trying to do all the work for them. But usually we'll try to prove ourselves to the group to see, for ourselves because it'll make us feel good, like, wow, he's beneficial. Just like on team sports, there's the MVP, the most valuable player, or the team captain. So when you look at groups like workforce, in a class, or political rally, that's a pretty big group. Or if you're in a stadium and it's like a sports team, I've been to many football games, NFL games, whenever the Patriots come to town. And I don't usually get this force, but if I was a Redskins fan, or Washington football team fan, as they're called now, I would have this thing called the social force. And this is something that you can't really feel that it's coming. Like, you don't really know when it's coming, but when you're in a big group like that, you start to get different feelings of what the group is feeling. So if the team is getting pumped up because, touchdown was scored, and everybody goes off, everybody gets that elation feeling, that dopamine feeling of, oh yes, we scored a touchdown. Or a political leader, for attending a rally for a political figure, that figure will get everybody, if the leader is really charismatic, he can get the whole crowd behind him. A concert can also work this way too. Feelings like anger, excitement, or even anger, if it's like a Black Lives Matter protest this past year we've seen. If somebody gets on the mic and, says, how everything that's been going on with the racial injustice, then that whole crowd will get riled up, and, stuff will happen. That whole crowd will get that same emotion. You can also see this back in the day. MLK, he did his I Have a Dream speech. I couldn't imagine what the feeling was like to be in the crowd when he delivered it, but I'm sure everybody at that point, the movement was super high, and MLK, he was a charismatic figure. Like I talked in the past episode, he was a master at his craft and at what he did. Now, as we were in a group for a while, we tend to feel more connected to the group, and we're drawn to that social force. And we kind of yearn for it. This is why people love to go to concerts or attend political rallies. I've personally never been to one, but I've heard that, if you're either Democrat or Republican, if you attend one and you really believe in what that political figure stands for, then you'll definitely get behind it and everybody will be pumped up. I've personally seen Donald Trump supporters rallies in Pennsylvania. I've been in Pennsylvania, and they usually come around the town. The town. I've been in Gettysburg, and They'll come around the town and everybody will be honking their cars. It's really Republican down there. So we feel this, like we feel the need to be in a group because it's some sort of nonverbal validation. We formed the concept of us back when we were born, when our mom was looking at us, and and this concept of us reminds us that we're alive, that we're there, we're alive and well. One example I can give is, not probably not a lot of people have seen it, but South Park, one of my favorite shows. There's this episode where Cartman, if you watch South Park at all for a couple episodes, you'll know that Cartman is the a-hole of the friends, and his friends decide to pretend that he's not there. They try, ignore him, basically ignore him at all costs. And then everybody in the town starts to ignore him too. I guess they kind of go along with it. And Cartman starts to lose his mind because he feels like he's dead and he's a ghost. It's pretty funny. I forgot the name of that episode, but it's hilarious. And yeah, just look up South Park. Cartman ignored, thinks he's dead on Google, and you'll find it. Anyways, so yeah, and with this force, like, it reminds us that we're there and we're alive, and it's good to know that. That's why we're social animals, and we've been doing this forever, basically. So back to the group. So when we're in a group setting, the leader of the group, we usually kind of conform to what everybody in that group tries to conform themselves to how that leader acts. This is why usually all Republicans will think alike and all Democrats will think alike, or a cult leader, usually like Jesus, Catholics and Christians, or other religious leaders, the Pope. I'm not really too aware of it, but usually if you look at any group, the all the minions or all the people under the leader will try to conform their ideas and the way that they are, their work ethic, to how that leader acts. This is why if you have a really, really good leader in a work environment or any sort of team environment, that team will do really well. Some examples I can point out are Michael Jordan with the Bulls. I talked about him last episode. Tom Brady in any team. Now he's with the Bucks, but when he was with the Patriots, he was the Patriot way. He and Bill Belichick were basically running things, and they had a strict way, the Patriot way of getting games won, and they were able to win 6 championships. And then Tom, he took that work ethic and he brought it to Tampa, and then Tampa won the last Super Bowl this year. So when we're in a group, if we're in a really, really good group, that group can do really well if that leader can get everybody riled up and everybody to go for the same cause. Some examples I can say personally, myself, I'm at work and my manager will try to say, okay guys, we got to do this, we got to make sure we want to be the number one store or whatever in the area, or the we're trying to get our numbers really high so that we can show out, and then whatever. I mean, I don't really get that riled up about it because I don't make commission, so I don't care that much. I just kind of go there and do my job. I don't work any faster, slower. I work fine. But yeah, there's that. So we're in a group. Some examples of, like I said, yeah, we kind of change our beliefs and maybe things we would like to do based on what other people in our group are doing. And some examples I've seen over the years on social media. Social media does this a lot. There's trends, fidget spinners. The Kylie Jenner lip challenge was one of the funniest and stupidest ones. There's a lot of stupid ones. That one, the planking challenge. I thought the planking thing, it was a little bit old. You can probably look it up on YouTube. Look up plank compilation. You can probably do this for all these challenges, but there was people planking in the most randomest spots, and it was pretty funny. It was pretty funny to see. It wasn't as dumb, unless they did it in a really, really dangerous spot, like in a super high skyscraper or something. The Tide Pod challenge, people were eating Tide Pods for clout. Clout, if you don't know what it is, it's to gain notoriety on social media or the internet. Now, the In My Feelings challenge, the Kiki, do you love me, are you riding, the Drake challenge, where they would step out the car and forgot what the term is called, ghost ride the whip. Ghost ride the whip. The whip is in the car, so they would get out the car and start walking as the car is moving, and it's dangerous as heck. So that was a really dumb one, although I do like that song by Drake. And last summer, there was the Black Lives Matter black box thing that everybody was doing. It was like, I forgot what day, it was like in the middle of summer. Everybody had like a black box on their Instagram. Like everybody would post a black box on their Instagram to show that they support Black Lives Matter, and that was their way of doing it. Um, Other ones were the mannequin challenge. Um, TikTok now has trends, or one TikTok will just go off. Um, Now, one that I kind of am doing, and it's one of the really better ones that I've, fallen into, is the cryptocurrency craze. Right now, I'm up several $1000s of my initial investment, thanks to getting into cryptocurrency. I got in right on time, and I'm making a lot of money on that. So that's pretty good. But everything could always fall, so you never know. Now, other personal examples: peer pressure. I have personally been peer pressured to doing certain things that probably aren't appropriate to discuss, since this is a school MC's podcast. But peer pressure, everybody gets, peer pressure. This is why at a young age, usually our parents will tell us, hey, you're going to get peer pressure to do this, do that, back, when you're hanging out with friends or whatever. Um, like trying drugs, trying smoking cigarettes, which are really bad for you, or drinking at a young age, or drinking and driving. Like, oh, it doesn't matter, just do a couple shots, it's fine. They're gonna go right through you, it's fine. But it's dangerous to drink or drive. I've personally never done it, but it's something people get peer pressure to do when you're in a group. Usually your friends will peer pressure you, or to skip school. I've done that before. Um, Now, it's not always good to go again with the group. Sometimes it is good. You have to find the value in it and when it's a good time to do it. Sometimes it's better to think if it's better to go against the grain than to follow what the group is doing. Um, Now, so we have to see if there's value going against the grain, or else, you might get ostracized from the group. So, like, if you're really, really obviously like not going with what that environment is doing, what that group environment is doing, you can essentially get kicked out or even fired. Usually, and this is something you have to really think about in your past experiences in like jobs or groups. Each group will have their culture and their way of doing things, their unwritten rules, if they're as they're called, of the way you have to conform to the group, or else you might get, somebody will tell on you. Somebody in the group will tell the leader, hey, this person's doing this, even though it's not really, you're not going to get fired for it, but it's like, oh, you have to learn what kind of rules they have, unwritten rules, that is. And you might feel like it's unfair, but that's just the sad fact of life, that this happens. Anyway, when we're in groups, we feel like we can take certain risks, and we won't get, it won't, there's no consequences to it. We won't think of the consequences of doing certain actions. Like I said earlier, the cryptocurrency craze, there's always a chance those things could crash or somebody will hack them. From what I heard, they're really secure, but there's always that chance. Or if the whole internet gets shut down, like in another South Park episode where the internet gets shut down. That one's hilarious. I should look it up. But yeah, everybody would lose their money, all their investments, and you would have to go back to paper currency. So when we feel like the whole group is doing it, oh, everybody's in this cryptocurrency craze, or even an example from this past year, Black Lives Matter. They were peaceful protesters, and then there were people that were taking advantage of the social injustices and going in and breaking into Target and stealing televisions or vandalizing stores or whatever. And some people did get arrested. I don't think everybody that did it got arrested. I think there's a lot of people that got away with it. But you don't think about the consequences, and you think, oh, the whole group is doing it, let's do it. And you know what, I was against looting, but hey, if the opportunity's there, hell, I would have snatched me something expensive or something. You know what I mean? Now, yeah, and I'm pretty sure most people would. We are opportunists at the core. Anybody who says they're not is their shadow trying to repress and not show it out. Like I said in episode, the past episode. So when we're in groups, we're actors. We put our shadow on, or like our mask on, like I said in the past episode of, the image we want to portray, because obviously we don't want to get ostracized from the group. So we hide our beliefs, like I know this past year I saw Twitter trends, or on Twitter, people would call it closet Republican, because some people might not agree with, everything that's happening, and, they might, vote the other way. But, Joe Biden won, so it didn't happen. So, people kind of don't want to, it's not good to show what you really are in the group if you are against that thing, because you might get attacked or fired, or, anything like that. In groups, when we're going from group to group, and when we belong to a certain group and we're in a different group, we feel that sense of not belonging. One example I could show you is if you travel to another country that you're not aware of, that you're just visiting, you will definitely feel that. Or if you come from a poorer neighborhood or a richer neighborhood and you go to that, that opposite, you're definitely gonna feel like you're not part of this. Like, it's gonna be a feeling, in everybody can feel it. Everybody that's watching this video can probably relate to that feeling. I personally never really had that feeling of rich to poor, or no, definitely rich to poor, because I live in Germantown and it's nice. Now, if you go to Baltimore, or I've been to Philly, I couldn't tell you which one was, more not safe. They have their nice parts, but usually most of the city will be, you know what I mean. Now, the longer a group is around, the more conservative it tends to become, because it'll hold on to those values. And this is why we see progressive ideas coming along nowadays, where people are like, oh, it's time to switch our old way of thinking, or okay, boomer, whatever. People conform to those old ideas that kept that group together, and then the new generation will eventually come and change it. This is for a whole nother episode of how generations change us as human beings, but you kind of get what I mean. The longer the group is, the more conservative it is, and the more it'll try to hold on to those ideas that shaped the group to what it was to that point. You know what I mean? Now, in all groups, there's a leader. Back in the old days, there was, the alpha male, or in animals, you see the alpha monkey or the alpha lion. Usually the lion is like like you've seen the Lion King, and I think that's how lions really are. That there's one dominant lion, and then there's the girl lions. I don't know the name. So this goes back years, and even still, back even 100 or 200 years. I'm not sure when the French Revolution was. Monarchies, there was kings, and that was the leader. Obviously now we've grown, and I even agree that there's no superior man. There's not one person that's clearly superior. Now everybody has different qualities that can make them better than the other person, but we agree that all humans are created equal. That's what this company was found. That's what this country was founded on. And we have our presidents, who we do vote in, or our boss or team captain in sports. Tom Brady, Aaron Donald for the LA Rams, Aaron Rodgers, who's probably going to leave soon, and Packers. Yeah, LeBron James and the Lakers. I don't like him, but he's the leader of that team. I'll give him that. Now, conclusion. How can we become better humans by understanding the group dynamic? Well, now that we know that we conform to the group, we have to understand, we have to not shape our ideas to the group. We have to hold our value. If we do that, if we conform to what the group's ideas are, sure, it might make us go a little bit farther in the group, but we will lose our sense of individuality and what makes us unique. And that's not good. It's never good to play a different character because, like I said in the past episode, that real you will eventually come out and you will tend to feel more free. Just think for a second how much free you would feel. I didn't add this in the last episode, but think of how much freer you would feel if you weren't playing that role, that role that you feel like you have to play. So you have to learn to think for yourself. Don't conform to those ideas if you don't really agree with them. And one thing you can do is think of the past ideas you've had and maybe if they've changed based on the atmosphere, the setting, the group that you've been around with. Now, one last thing I want to say is we have to stop looking at everything like it's a big, like in groups, because we are all one big group. We are the human race. Especially nowadays, you see it in the media or, politics. Republicans and Democrats. We're all human. We have to help each other out. Now they have different values, but in the end, let's respect people for their different viewpoints. We shouldn't attack someone just because they think a certain way. I feel like the world would be a better place if that was the case. If you didn't force somebody to think like you. Somebody might be pro-abortion or against it. Just, whether you agree with it or not, just respect someone's opinions and don't, get all triggered over it. It's time to get everybody together. We're all in this together. We're all the same human beings. If aliens were to attack, everybody would have to unite. And I think that is something we all agree with. This has been the Primal Human episode. How many? 4? I think it's episode 4. Yeah, episode 4. The group dynamic. See you later.